Hi guys, welcome to your lymphedema lecture. I'm so sorry that I wasn't there to be able to host a in-person or a Zoom session with you. Life is a little crazy over at the Booker household, but I hope that you are well. I wanted to run through what today is going to look like for you since we're not in person and we're not meeting online. So let me just pull up Blackboard, and we will quickly run through the expectations for today. So my expectation is that you will review this recorded lecture here labeled Lymphedema 2021 Booker. It's a PowerPoint that you should be able to write on and listen to as you go. So I want you to go through that initially after you get finished with this little infomercial here. Next, you're going to go through some handouts that I have posted here. I don't expect you to memorize the handouts by any means. They are really just resources, especially if you find yourself on a fieldwork rotation where you are encountering someone with lymphedema, or in your early practice, and you happen to still have these. These could be very useful to you. So they're good for patient education and for you to use as a reference in the future. So I highly recommend putting them in a fieldwork readiness binder, putting them away for a rainy day when you actually encounter a client with lymphedema. So that being said, this first one is just a very general, very quick patient handout, front and back. This one is golden. It is from the Occupational Therapy Toolkit. It basically takes you through, general things. It has both a lower extremity handout for prevention as well as an upper extremity handout. Both of those are fairly simple and easy to use. Now, this third one is amazing, probably from some upper level training things. That we would, if we had the opportunity to have a lab on lymphedema, we probably would have gone over some of this, such as using circular motions. These would be the first places you would stimulating the lymph nodes in the cervical region. This is obviously for the right arm involvement, right upper extremity. And then it would tell you where to go next. Remember, you're doing these big, deep cleansing breaths. But typically, if you're going to be doing this manual lymphatic drainage, I recommend, ethically speaking, you need some additional training. And typically, we would defer to a certified lymphedema therapist. Now, an OT can become a certified lymphedema therapist, but here are just some general things that will be involved for that manual lymphatic drainage, which we'll talk about more in the lecture coming up, of course. Then this goes into care of bandages. This is a great handout to use by itself. Care of your compression garments. How to avoid risk or decrease your risk as a person with lymphedema. What kind of lifestyle and activity changes to make. This is the general branching of the lymphatic system diagram. And then this would be for wrapping purposes. Now, again, I don't expect you to memorize this. This is really just good information if you happen to have the opportunity to, see lymphedema in a clinical setting coming up. So put it away for a rainy day. I do want you to just look through those and be familiar enough with them to be dangerous, so to speak, but the lecture material is really what you are most responsible for. Once you get through sorting through the handouts and reviewing the recorded lecture, I want you to follow the link to the Kahoot. The Kahoot is individual. I want you to use your full first and last name when you play the Kahoot. It's really just to check your knowledge, but it's also to tell me, hey, you've done what you need to do. You've watched your stuff and you've reviewed and checked yourself to make sure that you know what you need to know to move forward in this course. So, that's all. Your Kahoot is due by this evening at 10 o'clock. Do your best, and I hope you have a great experience with your lymphedema lecture. Have a great day.